centered around him, and he really drove the film, you know. And I think the good thing about it was that, you know, Oliver Stone could have taken the cheap route and just be like, okay, man, I'm just gonna focus on Gordon Gekko and just use the whole Gordon Gekko thing. But no, the film really, yes, Gordon Gekko has a pretty big part in it, but really the heartbeat of this is really between Shia LaBeouf and the Josh Brolin character. I mean, to put it very simply, the story is about Gordon Gekko. Obviously, at the end of part one, he's coming out of jail, and he's now been released out of jail. Obviously, he's now trying to basically tell his story, and he's trying to. And for me, this is the best part of this film, because like this book is really about comparing Wall Street and the stock market to, and really society through money terms from the 80s where he was operating to now. So that's what Gordon Gekko is doing. But then we all have another storyline where Shia LaBeouf is obviously working in stock, and you know he's a young guy, up and coming, but his stock is having the company he's working for is having some problems, you know, because obviously he wants to do some investments in Fusion, you know, like with one of the guys who was actually in Oz, I believe, you know, and he almost had life in the streets. He's working for a company, but the company is facing bankruptcy, and pretty much so this is where the Josh Brolin character comes in and, you know, pretty much messes up their company, you know, forcing them to sell off the company for a very, very, very low amount, you know, basically making them embarrassing, you know. And then this leads to Shia LaBeouf being angry with what Josh Brolin has done to his company, and then he goes to one of Gordon Gekko's speeches and he begins to see reason in what Gordon Gekko says. And to add with that, I mean, this just, because people say, oh, there were too many storylines, but for me, I just loved the amounts of drama and the amounts of, you know, intricate plot lines that were, because to add to that, Shia LaBeouf is going out with Gordon Gekko's daughter, and he was thinking, and I think he wants to marry Gordon Gekko's daughter. So, but Gordon Gekko's daughter says, don't mess with this guy. Okay, go watch Wall Street 1. You know, this guy he's a very messed up guy who's obsessed with money and cash. You know, but Shia LaBeouf, he reluctantly goes to this speech and he really sees sense in what this guy says, and he talks to him. Gordon Gekko has a bit of an uneasy relationship with him, but really, ultimately, long story short, Shia LaBeouf starts to coerce and work under Josh Brolin's company, and with the intention of messing up Josh Brolin, hence monetary revenge for what Josh Brolin did to his company. So that's that main bit of the story. But then that's just the very main plot line. But guys, man, this, like, I mean, when I was watching this film, I was like, man, you know, so people can still make films, but the key thing is Oliver Stone. Where's he from? He's from the 80s. Oliver Stone is from the 80s, man. Go watch his films. Like, for me, I thought that, look, man, Oliver Stone was in an extreme bad taste to make World Trade Center so soon after the event. Wait about 20 years or something like that. It was way too soon, so I thought that was an extreme bad taste, hence why I washed my hands clean on that film. But the thing about this is that, you know, this is relevant and this should be done, because there are still, because I mean, one of the key points that this film addresses is the psyche of the world that we're living in, i.e. loan, borrow. Hence why it spiraled out of control and it's led to this whole crazy market crash, you know, stock crash, you know. And this film addressed that. And I think the great thing about this film is that, you know, Gordon Gekko, he's a guy that was from the 80s, operating in a whole different time. But now he's now operating at a time where, like, you know, things are just completely different now. There's so many billionaires now. I mean, one of the points he made to the young guys is that you have no income, no jobs, and you're pretty much, your life just depends on that credit card of borrowing, you know. And I think that the film really, and I think as well, it's to do with the visuals and the directing sense of Oliver Stone. He really represented the mad world that we're living in now. just the mad, crazy world that we're living in now, which just things are just so out of control. Guys are even so much more obsessed about more money than they were back in the 80s during Wall Street 1. You know, but yeah, man, and I think really, man, that's why I said that I really, really recommend this, because the reasons why I believe that this film has not been done well critically is because people don't want to hear this stuff. They don't want to hear that you guys are that those that control your money are idiots and they're extremely greedy people. Because the film it's the truth, but it's very negative. It's not very positive. It's not very light-hearted. They didn't take the cheap route and just talk about Gordon Gekko and just make Gordon Gekko some kind of like a pantomime. No, this is a story about how messed up the monetary system is, and focusing on the difference of how the American Wall Street works from now to like about over 20 years ago. So that's the beautiful thing about it. But also as well, man, like there's some very good performances in this. I've actually forgotten that girl's name. But yeah, the guy is called she was fine. She was fine. And I mean, like, because she brought a reality to it, and she brought a believability. Because hence all of a sudden he picks people who act. Okay, he doesn't pick like your Megan Fox or your Jessica Biels, people who they have no business being in the film. So everybody there they could act, but I think the standout guys for me, Douglas, he's from the 80s. He's from the 80s. What's it called? Watch Black Rain. You say anything? Watch Black Rain, and you'll know what I mean with that scene with the gun. Man, Douglas is from the 80s, so he brought the 80s to this, so he was full on. Gordon Gekko was full on, and guys will know what I mean when he puts that cigar in his mouth. He was full on. What's it called? Oh man, I keep on forgetting these guys' names. Basically, he was in basically the guy Perry White from Superman Returns, and his name for just has left me now. He was really good. He was really, really good. He was really, really, really good. He was basically he was pretty much Shia LaBeouf's mentor at the beginning of the film, and he's the guy whose company goes pretty much bankrupt and messed up, and they need to pretty much get sell the company and be helped by Josh Brolin and his people in the of other companies and the Federal Reserve. He was really good, because he brought the accent in there, and he was really representing the old and the new. He obviously was an old school guy who really couldn't understand the way that these guys in the new world was coping. And I think that him as an old school guy couldn't really cope with the logistics and the mechanics of this whole new world that he was living in. Josh Brolin, see, people forget. People think that Josh Brolin is like this up and coming new actor. Josh Brolin was in Goonies. He's from the 80s. That's what I say. Don't mess with the 80s. Josh Brolin is from the 80s. So he understands that mentality. Same thing with Mike, like he did. They understand that mentality. That's when you saw that one of the great scenes in this film was between Michael Douglas and Josh Brolin at the whole dinner thing. Because they understood